You know, I used to be really, really bad at understanding why I won at poker, even though I was winning. Online, back in the day, my notes on bad players used to just be like, he's terrible, he sucks, or something very, very complicated, like a very intricate hand history that only happened once that couldn't possibly help me in the future. Even when I was playing live, I understood what players were probably, you know, long-term losers and like long-term break-even and long-term winners, but I didn't really understand like what I was doing that other people weren't, or the bad things I was avoiding that other players couldn't avoid that made them bleed money in hands. It took a very long time, and I think it was one day in Vegas. I moved here in March 2015, and it was one day in Vegas in 2015 where it hit me, you know, that guy's terrible, but he's not terrible in a way that I can easily exploit him and win hands off of him. And it got me to thinking, like, yeah, he's bad, there's no question about it. He's a long-term loser in poker, but what is he doing that's terrible? And even though he's a loser, he's a losing player, he's doing some things okay. It's not like he loses every hand he plays. What are the good things he's doing? Because somehow the things he's terrible at, I don't get a chance to beat him that way. And the few things he does well, somehow I always wind up playing his game and he beats me in those hands. And it got me to thinking, and some guys are bad in a way that you don't exploit. And the things that they do poorly actually protect themselves from you. The three most difficult players I've ever played against are definitely long-term losing players in their lives. Two of them are in Council Bluffs. One was here in Vegas. I don't see him much anymore. He was here in 2015 a lot, and then I think he got banned from all MGM poker rooms for cheating. But the two guys in Council Bluffs, there's no chance they're winning players, and it's incredibly difficult to win hands off of them. You start playing their game, and that's what they want. And it took me a long time to realize that. I used to change to tables of bad players like that, wind up playing their game, lose a lot of pots, lose some big pots, lose some all-ins, and not understand what hit me. And then I started thinking about this. Some guys, even though they're not good, they're bad in a way that really doesn't help you. And one of the biggest helps to me figuring this out was actually grad school. There's a concept in actuarial science. It's a combination of frequencies and severities. So if you're issuing car insurance policies, there's two combinations of frequency and severity that you should consider. One is high frequency, low severity. So think of the claims that sedans will submit. There's a lot of sedans on the road. The claims will be something minor, probably like a fender bender. And it's not a big deal to, you know, work out those claims, fix the fender or the bumper of inexpensive cars. There's a lot of them, but they're not that expensive, each one. And then there's the opposite. It's high severity, low frequency. Like, what if you're trying to insure like a Maserati or an Aston Martin? For one, those guys drive, they have the cars to drive them very fast. So if something happens, it's not a fender bender in a supermarket parking lot. The car is going to be totaled. It's very expensive, and it's going to be the entire car that needs to be fixed. So there's not many of them out on the road, but when there is a claim submitted, it's going to be for the entire car. That concept really helped me think about certain players I was playing against in Vegas in 2015. There are players who will bleed small but all night. People who play hands like Queen 4. They hit like second pair, no kicker, and they don't get all in, but you can get a little money from them each street. You'll win hands against those players all night. Not too many all-ins though. And that's what Mandalay right now in Vegas is a lot like, actually. Very recreational, a lot of convention people play. A lot of people just walking by who, you know, didn't really plan on playing poker. The buy-ins are short and medium, and a lot of the pots are small, but you end up winning a lot of pots throughout the night. And then it's the opposite, which was like Baltimore for me in autumn 2020, where there were a lot of young people who have definitely been watching YouTube, I guess, and they're pretty selective and aggressive pre-flop, but they make very bad mistakes on their all-in hands. They're very good at like 3-betting and then C-betting the flop and winning small to medium-sized pots. And I hope the wind isn't too bad. I can feel it a little. I hope the sound is all right. But they really overvalue hands when they get all in, or they're all in so infrequently that they just butcher those hands. They get in too deep from these 3 bets pre-flop and these C-bets on the flop, and sometimes double barrel bets on the turn, and they just don't know what to do. They think, oh, I'm too committed, I'm too invested. Against those players, they're not gonna limp king 3, hit a king on an ace-high board, and lose 75 bucks to you. But they will overvalue the hands when you want to get all in. And there were guys like that. I knew when they got to the table, if I win a hand against him, it's going to be all in. So it helped me early on in 2015 in Vegas when I first moved here, not get frustrated when a guy would sit. I knew he was very bad, and like I might play with him 2-3 days in a row and not win a hand off him. I used to get very frustrated about that. I'm like, I'm good, he's bad. Why am I not beating him? Why am I not taking money off him every night? Some guys, it's going to be very infrequent, but it's going to be very severe. You're going to win the all-ins. So even if you only win like 1 hand off the guy every 3 days, it's going to be an all-in. The all-in makes up for it. And there are other players also, it's okay not to be frustrated that you're not winning all-ins against them, because when they play their queen 3, they never really hit a hand so strong that they want to get all in, but they'll bleed little by little throughout the night. So that concept from actuarial science helped me understand how to beat certain players, what types of hands I'm going to play that are going to beat them, what it's going to be like when they lose and I win, and that goes on in the same hand. So it helped me avoid a lot of, like, not so much heartache, that's a strong word, but a lot of difficulties and like confusion and frustration when I started to think, okay, he's bad, but how is he bad? How do I exploit him? Does my skill set exploit him at all? Doesn't do it a lot. How much do I expect to win off him each night? How many hands do I expect to win against him each night? So it's not just enough to say someone's terrible. So those concepts helped me, but the first step was, how is that player bad? Because there are many forms of bad. There's loose bad, there's tight bad, there's too aggressive, there's plays too many all-ins. And understanding when your skill set syncs with another player's mistakes. Some players are very bad, but it's difficult to win money against them, actually.